Hey history buffs, welcome back to the channel. Everyone knows Cleopatra, the mesmerizing queen of Egypt, whose beauty, wit, and power captivated Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, shaping the destiny of empires. But hidden behind her dazzling legend is another story, one of courage, rivalry, and tragedy. This is the tale of her half-sister Arsinoe, for a young princess who dared to defy both Cleopatra and Rome itself. Ambitious and intelligent, Arsinoe fought to claim her place in a world ruled by men and politics. From the golden palaces of Alexandria to the bloody sands of battle, her journey was one of survival against impossible odds. Yet history nearly erased her name. Today, we uncover the forgotten queen who stood in the shadow of Cleopatra, a woman whose story reveals the price of ambition and the cruelty of power in the final days of ancient Egypt. Arsinoe IV was born into one of history's most dangerous dynasties, the Ptolemaic royal family of Egypt, where bloodlines were both a crown and a curse. As Cleopatra's younger half-sister, Arsinoe entered a world of dazzling luxury, deadly ambition, and constant intrigue. The royal palace in Alexandria was a place where siblings could become enemies overnight, and trust was a rare currency. From an early age, Arsinoe showed intelligence and determination that rivaled Cleopatra's own. She was educated by the same scholars who taught the philosophies of Greece and the sciences of Egypt. She learned politics, strategy, and persuasion, not merely as a princess, but as someone who understood that knowledge was the key to survival. While Cleopatra charmed diplomats and wielded her allure like a weapon, Arsinoe observed and learned in silence. She understood that Egypt was changing, that Rome's shadow was growing longer over the Nile. And within that shifting power, she began to see her own destiny. Arsinoe did not want to live in Cleopatra's shadow, nor serve as a pawn in the games of men like Julius Caesar. She saw herself as a true daughter of the Ptolemies, born with the right to rule. Her ambition was not born from envy, but from conviction. Arsinoe believed she could restore Egypt's independence and strength. She gathered allies quietly, earning the loyalty of soldiers and nobles who doubted Cleopatra's allegiance to Rome. In her heart burned the dream of a kingdom ruled not by charm or seduction, but by courage and pride. Yet, in the palace halls, every whisper of rebellion was a death sentence, and Arsinoe's growing defiance would soon put her in direct conflict with her own sister's setting, the stage for a royal struggle that would shake the ancient world. When Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt, the fragile balance within the Ptolemaic dynasty began to collapse. Cleopatra, ever the strategist, had already aligned herself with Rome, securing Caesar's support through diplomacy and seduction. To Arsinoe, this alliance was nothing short of treason. She saw her sister not as a savior of Egypt, but as a woman willing to trade her country's freedom for personal power. The presence of Roman legions in Alexandria was an insult to her lineage, and Arsinoe refused to remain silent in the face of such betrayal. Driven by pride and a sense of destiny, Arsinoe made her move. She proclaimed herself the true queen of Egypt, gathering loyal Egyptian generals and soldiers who still clung to the dream of independence. Though young, she proved to be a fierce leader, fearless and intelligent, capable of inspiring her people. Her army took control of parts of Alexandria, fortifying the city against Caesar's forces. For a brief, blazing moment, Arsinoe stood not as a princess in her sister's shadow, but as a rival queen commanding a nation at war. The conflict between Cleopatra and Arsinoe quickly escalated beyond politics. It became a personal and emotional battle, sister against sister, queen against queen. Each victory on the battlefield deepened their hatred, and each defeat carved deeper wounds into their family's legacy. Arsinoe's defiance enraged both Cleopatra and Caesar, but it also earned her respect across Egypt. She embodied a rare kind of courage, the will to stand alone against two of the most powerful figures in the world. Her rebellion would not only test her strength but also define her place in history as the forgotten queen who dared to challenge Rome itself. Arsinoe's defiance became the spark that ignited one of Egypt's most daring uprisings. Refusing to bow to Cleopatra and her Roman allies, she declared herself queen and led a full-scale rebellion. Against all expectations, her leadership inspired Egyptian soldiers and citizens alike. For a brief moment, Arsinoe achieved what no one thought possible. She seized control of parts of Alexandria. driving back Caesar's legions and forcing the mighty Roman general into a defensive position. The city roared with the pride of independence, and Arsinoe stood atop its walls as a symbol of resistance, a young queen defying an empire. But the glory of rebellion was short-lived. Caesar, furious and humiliated, unleashed the full power of Rome against Arsinoe's forces. The streets of Alexandria became a war zone filled with fire, chaos, and betrayal. Despite her bravery, Arsinoe's troops were outnumbered and outmatched by Roman discipline and strategy. One by one, her defenses fell. Even then, Arsinoe refused to surrender easily. She fought until her capture, defiant and unbroken, her eyes burning with the pride of a queen who would rather fall than kneel. When Caesar finally captured Arsinoe, he faced a dilemma. Killing her would make her a martyr, but letting her live could ignite rebellion again. In a calculated act of mercy or control, he exiled Arsinoe to the temple of Artemis in Ephesus, far from Egypt's throne. There, surrounded by sacred silence, Arsinoe became both prisoner and legend. Though stripped of her crown, she carried herself with the quiet dignity of a queen who had faced the greatest empire on earth and survived. Her exile marked the end of her rebellion, but not the end of her story. For even in isolation, her presence haunted Cleopatra and Rome alike. Even in exile, Arsinoe's presence haunted Cleopatra, like a ghost from the past. Though confined within the sacred walls of the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus, Arsinoe remained a living symbol of defiance. The last rival who could challenge Cleopatra's rule. Whispers of her survival spread through Egypt and Rome alike, fueling rumors that she might one day return to reclaim the throne. For Cleopatra, who had fought tooth and nail to secure her crown, that possibility was unbearable. Every rumor of Arsinoe's name was a blade pressed against her power, a reminder that the throne of Egypt was never truly safe. As years passed, Cleopatra's paranoia deepened, Rome's influence grew stronger, and alliances shifted like desert winds. Cleopatra could not afford even the shadow of a rival. To her, Arsinoe was not a sister anymore. She was a threat that had to be erased. The queen's order was delivered in silence, carried by Roman executioners under the cover of political duty. No trial, no ceremony. Just a command whispered from the throne of Alexandria. In that moment, Cleopatra chose power over blood, sealing her sister's fate with ruthless precision. In Ephesus, beneath the marble grandeur of Artemis's temple, Roman soldiers carried out Cleopatra's command. Arsinoe, once a princess and rebel, faced her death with quiet strength. The sanctity of the temple could not protect her. The gods themselves seemed to watch in silence. As the blade fell, a chapter of Egypt's royal bloodline ended in tragedy. Arsinoe's death was more than a murder. It was a message. Cleopatra's power was absolute, and mercy had no place beside her crown. Yet in the echoes of history, Arsinoe's courage endured the memory of a forgotten queen who dared to stand against empire, sisterhood, and fate itself. So, what happened to Arsinoe? After Caesar defeated her forces, he paraded her through the streets of Rome in chains during his triumph, a huge humiliation. He spared her life, exiling her to the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus. But her story doesn't end there. Years later, Cleopatra, fearing her sister could one day return to challenge her again, had her new lover, Mark Antony, order Arsinoe's execution on the steps of the very temple that was supposed to be her sanctuary. It was a brutal end to a dramatic life, showing just how ruthless Cleopatra could be to secure her power. So, was Arsinoe a legitimate contender, or just a pawn in a larger game? The answer depends on whose story you read, the scribe in Alexandria or the historian in Rome. It's a powerful reminder that history is always written by the victors. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. Thanks for watching.